bass.
Welcome to another edition of Truth and Rhythm. This is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. I am your host, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine. If you enjoy this programming, subscribe to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube, which is where Truth and Rhythm lives, and be an advocate by spreading the word among fellow funk, jazz, and R&B music lovers. Join Truth and Rhythm's membership program through Patreon. You can also submit a direct donation to the cause anytime at funkandstuff.net. At that site, you can also purchase the book Everything's on the One, The First Guide of Funk. Shop for official Truth and Rhythm and Funk and Stuff merchandise, and use the Amazon links for all of your online purchases, which allocates a percentage to this show. For those of you who go the extra step in supporting the show, you have my heartfelt gratitude for allowing us to continue to shine the light on those special artists whose quest is to find truth in rhythm.
I'm delighted to welcome to the Truth and Rhythm show R&B singer Shirley Jones, who along with sisters Brenda and Valorie comprised the fabulous Jones Girls. Beginning in 1979, the trio recorded 3 straight albums that rose to the R&B Top 25 and sent 5 songs into the Top 25 as well. Those included You're Gonna Make Me Love Somebody Else, I Just Love the Man, and Nights Over Egypt. Jones Girls also performed and recorded with Lou Rawls, Teddy Pendergrass, Aretha, Clifford and Diana Ross. Striking out on her own in 1986, Shirley's solo debut, Always in the Mood, reached number 8 on the R&B albums chart and includes the number 1 ballad, Do You Get Enough Love? Since then, she has continued to tour and release new music, upholding the Jones Girls' wonderful legacy. To that end, her new album, Reflections in Loving Memory, commemorates the 45th anniversary of the sisters' debut album. Shirley, it's a pleasure. Thank you for joining the show.
Oh, I'm glad to be here.
Good to have you. And I assume you're in your home. Where in the country is that?
Atlanta. I'm in my office. Yes.
Atlanta. Okay. From Detroit originally, though. So how long have you been in that part of the country?
I've been in Atlanta since 1986. My 35-year-old son was born and raised here. So, yes, I've been here since then.
Okay, a little bit warmer, yeah.
Yes, been really nice today.
Yeah, we didn't have much of a winter. I'm in Charlotte, so not too far.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we really haven't had much of a winter.
So let's jump way back and to get a little bit of history. Obviously coming up with your sisters, it was a musical household. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like and your influences in terms of singing?
Yes, well, we started as background singers for my mom, who was one of the more popular gospel singers in that region of Detroit, Michigan, Ohio, and Illinois. In fact, she was the first Black gospel singer that RCA Records ever signed to their label. So she was quite popular. And we started singing around town with her as her background singers. First, it was just she and Brenda and I. And then once she heard Valorie, then she realized that, oh, okay. So I have a group here. And she continued to train our voices and teach us how to truly harmonize and to blend together. That was one of the things she stressed always to us, to have your harmony so tight that you couldn't cut it, not even with a knife. So you could not cut through it. That's how tight it was. So that's how we started in Detroit.
So did you have any other siblings or just the 3 of you?
No, it's just the 3 of us through that particular unit. Now we have some step sisters and brothers, that a couple that are older from another marriage. My father was a minister, but he was married like 4 times, I think. So we're from my mom's marriage. It was the 3 of us.
Okay. And so how old were you when you first performed together?
I was about 8. So we're stair steps. So probably 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah. So, and I understand it was 1970 when you got a first record deal. Is that right?
Yeah, 1970. Yep.
So were you just
And that was with
kids still
Music
then? Or?
Merchant. Yeah.
Wow. Did you realize that you're probably going to make a career of it at that point, or was it a life's goal? Or
We started thinking, after we were making money singing background, we're like, well, we might could do this thing. But we did not really, we just thought we would like to be a group because the emotions were out. And we said, wow, we would kind of like to be like them. And growing up, of course, we admired the Supremes, and we said, well, wow, we would like to do that. But we were comfortable doing background until and doing backup singing in Detroit. And then when Motown and Music Merchant moved to California, we moved to California too. And that's when we found out that Diana Ross was looking for some singers to take on a European tour and then a US tour. And they asked us if we wanted to audition, and we did, and we got it. And it's because of Diana that we became the Jones Girls, even though we had been singing earlier as the Jones Sisters. She introduced us to Gamble and Huff. She let us do our own spot in her show, and they happened to be in the audience in Philadelphia when we did our show, did a song, and came back and signed us, and then that's Jones Girls history from there.
Wow. So what was your first impression of Diana Ross?
Oh my God. Well, we had grown up loving the Supremes, imitating the Supremes, performing some of their songs. So when we met her, we actually did not know she was there for our audition. They did not tell us. They told us we drove all the way up Laurel Canyon in California to this big old house. And we thought we were auditioning for her music director, Gil Askey, and Don Peake, who was her road manager. So we started singing the song. And the next thing you knew, come down this long hallway was Diana, who had been back in a back room listening to us. And the first thing she said to us was, "You guys are terrific. Can you get passports? We're going to London." And we're like, what? Because we had just got to California a year or so before, doing background, and making good money doing that. But when Diana Ross said to get passports, we're like, oh my goodness. So we did, and away we went.
Wow. Now, what was the age spread of you and your sisters?
We're stair steps. We're like, my mother always said that every time when I was born, she left my dad, separated for a few months, and they got back together, and she got pregnant with Brenda. After she had Brenda, she left him, they separated again and got back together, and they had Valorie. And after Valorie, she said she separated for good and divorced. She was his second wife, I think, second or third wife.
Okay. So about how old were you all when you first connected with Diana Ross?
I'm the oldest, so I had to be about 19, 20. Yeah.
Wow.
So like 17, 18, 19.
And had you ever traveled? I mean, you said you moved to California, but other than that, had you ever traveled much before going out with Diana Ross?
Other than locally, like Chicago and Ohio with my mom, singing in various churches for different church programs.
So the whole thing was like a whirlwind awakening, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It was just, and she was the best. She was the absolute best person to work with, mainly because she was so concerned and protective of the three of us, because back in that time, she was traveling with a full orchestra, and it was all men. So it was like 30 something people in the entourage, all of them men except for the three of us, Diana and her wardrobe assistant. And because she knew that this was our first time overseas and we were from Detroit and we were young, she was very protective. And like on off days, she would constantly call to make sure we were okay. Sometimes even inviting us to lunch and shopping with her, which was it was amazing, because paparazzi was always around. And it was just she's just a beautiful, beautiful person.
Seems like she has a strong maternal instinct. I mean, because she kind of did that with like the Jacksons and Michael, right?
Yes,
You know,
yes. She was very, very protective of us.
wow, you're fortunate in that way. You know,
Yes.
that's a good way to break into the industry, I think. What can you tell us about Gamble and Huff? You know, what were those guys like?
Oh my God, they were amazing. Uh, Writers, producers, and that ship, the Philly International stable, was run like a school. When we first went there, all of the producers had offices, and we would have a schedule. We were getting with Dexter Wanzel and Cynthia on this day, the next day McFadden and Whitehead, and they all presented songs for the albums that we were doing, because they would fly us in. We were living in California. They would fly us in, for put us up in a they call them Airbnbs now, but it was be like a apartment type, since we were going to be there for 3 months. Because back in the day, you used to be there from start to finish usually, and that would take 3 months, because you were involved in we were involved in the entire uh, design of what the album, which songs were going to be on the album, what the album cover was going to look like, and all kinds of uh, things that we had to do as far as choreography and all that to get ready to go out on the road. So they were amazing in that artist development, and had everything strategically planned out for that first album, and then every album after that.
Yeah, I kind of figured I hadn't heard before, but I figured the Emotions, might be, an influence. And you mentioned them.
Oh yeah, they were absolutely. We were singing around in clubs where we had to sneak in the back door, perform, and leave, because we were all underage and could not really legally be in a bar drinking. But so they would come usher us in through the back door. We do our show, and we did a couple of the Emotion songs in our show. We love them.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I thought maybe the Emotions, maybe Staples, I'm thinking of Sisterly Acts, and,
Hmm.
you
The
know,
Staple Singers, we really like them. Uh, and the Supremes, we love them. Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. Sister Sledge was out, so but they came out about the same time. So we started getting into them too, and became friends with all of them. So,
and Pointer Sisters, maybe.
oh yeah, Pointer Sisters, yeah, we
Yeah.
had the same braider. We all she braided our hair and their hair. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. So what do you remember about making that first album, in terms of, what it was like for you girls to be in the studio, and did you feel intimidated or just overly excited, or
We were overly excited. We weren't intimidated, because we had been singing background and knew our way around a studio, because we, prior to getting with Diana, we not only sang, with Music Merchant, we had a short contract with Curtis Mayfield's label and recorded songs. And then we were the premier background singers back in the day for people like Aretha, uh, Teddy Pendergrass, Dionne Warwick, Helen Reddy, Cher. So we knew our way around the studio.
okay. So Dexter has been on the show, and what can you tell us about working with him?
Oh my God. We were just I was just texting him yesterday. We learned so much from Dexter, because he's like a genius. a musical genius, actually. And we were discussing texting each other because none of us knew that Nights Over Egypt is in the new movie, The Book of Clarence.
Mm.
And so I told him that I had to contact SAG-AFTRA because nobody contacted us, and here we are in this movie. And I let him know that he needs to contact SAG-AFTRA too for the music because we were supposed to get paid for that. So, and we are getting the Jones Girls. I saw to it that we're getting our share. So I let him know who he needed to contact for that music with SAG-AFTRA.
But that's great, though, and speaks to just the enduring, quality of the music.
Yes. I mean, 45, because let's see, Nights Over Egypt was on the third album. So it came out around 1981, 82. But then the first Jones Girls album came out in 79.
Yeah, so congratulations on 45 years with that.
Yes, thank you.
So you came out on fire, though. I mean, You're Gonna Make Me Love Somebody Else was a smash hit, and it was funky and catchy and great.
Mm-hmm.
And, do you remember anything about laying down that specific song? And did you think it was going to be a hit?
We did. We thought it was going to be a hit, but we didn't necessarily agree with them pushing it for disco because, disco had come in right there in 79 and they started putting it in disco clubs and we're like, we didn't think so, but it did. It did well in disco, but we loved the groove and we loved what it was saying too. And that is it's a young lady now that has it out, and it's a hit all over again for her too. So, and it's been sampled so many times. Jay-Z and so many others have sampled that song. So there again, it's a tribute to good quality music. I never dreamed it would be 45 years, and that we've transported. So it's been around for what 3 generations. So that's a tribute, and I'm very, very, very happy about that.
Yeah, still sounds great. And you had 3 singles on that record, so they were definitely behind you, I think.
Oh yeah, they were definitely behind us. And the interesting thing is, nobody wanted Kenny to put. We did not want him to put "Who Can I Run To" on the B side. Back in the day, it was an A side and a B side. And because we really thought that "Who Can I Run To" should have come out as a single. Then so we didn't want it as a B-side, but hey, it became a B-side. And when they flipped it over, so many DJs were playing it anyway. And then in 1995, when Escape did it, and it was a huge hit for them, it brought a lot of attention back to the original, who the song was written for, which is for me and my sisters.
So who did you go out with? Did you tour off just the first album at all?
Yes, the OJs. Kenny made the OJs take us out. And then we learned so much about performing from Walter and Eddie. They were the first ones. We were out with them for about 8 or 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we changed management, and Peebo Bryson's manager became our manager. He was managing Peebo and Richard Pryor at the time, David Franklin. He's no longer with us, but he was our manager. So the second group that we went out was Peebo Bryson.
And you came right back with the second record, and I felt like the sound overall was just a little more assured, and like you had settled kind of into who you were.
Yes.
On the second one.
Yeah, and we discussed that second album, the At Peace with Woman album, where we wanted it to be more of a concept, so that it would show the maturity of us vocally and writing wise. Because we had a couple of songs that we wrote that was on that second album. It was one or two on that first one too. Show Love Today, I think, was on that first one. And so it was definitely, our sophomore album was definitely a growth there. We were much more comfortable in the Jones Girls as a group.
Yeah, and I just love the man. I was another
Yes.
top 10.
Yes.
It had kind of a giving something he can feel kind of vibe, you know?
Yes, exactly. And in fact, when we do that song, my girls and I, we break down into singing that for a minute, giving him something he can feel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, hey, that's nothing wrong with that. It's one of my favorite Aretha songs. So,
Yes.
and you have the, the attitude with the spoken parts in there, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Funny story about that. The song was finished. There was no talking parts or anything. But Kenny kept saying, I really like it. I think it's going to be a hit, but it's just something missing. And so we were still in the sound booth, and he said, "Hold on a minute, girls, before you leave." We were ready to go, but and then we did not know he was sitting in the room where the engineers were, and he was listening to us. The mic was on, and I was going through something with the guy I was seeing, and Brenda and Valorie, they were like, well, once we get back home, you really need to think about leaving him because he's just, you deserve better. You need to be. And we didn't know he was listening. And he said, that's what we need. That's what we need on that song right there. So that's a funny story. And we said, what? You were listening? And I'm like, you were listening to what he said, let's take a break. And he and Huff went and wrote some lyrics. And he told us, he said, let's do something like that, what you guys were just doing. And so that's what we did.
yeah, that's how you get heart and soul into it, you know?
Yes.
And then Dance Turning Romance was, a dance hit on there
Oh,
also.
yes, it
Yeah.
was. Yeah. Now that one was everywhere in Europe. That's one of the ones I always have to sing in Europe.
And then was that all the singles off that sophomore one? I think so.
Let's see. It was I Just Love the Man, Dance Turner Romance.
That was it.
And then the title got a lot of play on like the jazz stations because At Peace with Woman was originally uh, an instrumental on MFSB. Their album, it was called Old San Juan, and Kenny loved the instrumental so much that he wrote lyrics. He wanted to write something that was socially that would hit people socially, and then there won't be peace on earth till man's at peace with woman. So it got a lot of play on a lot of the jazz stations and Quiet Storm.
I like the cover too of you guys.
Yeah, it became the title and the cover track. The cover he designed. That was Kenny Gamble all the way.
Yeah. What beach is that? Where you guys actually had a
That's
beach?
Malibu. He rented us a house that was right there on Malibu Beach, right there on the water. And we were there all day shooting.
Hard work to be in Malibu.
Yes.
So the third record, of course, had Nights Over Egypt. And
Yes.
did you feel like when that was recorded, what did you think about it before anyone, the masses, heard it?
To be honest, Brenda and I didn't want to do the song. It's not that we didn't like it, but by this time we had huge hits, with "You Gonna Make Me Love Somebody Else," "I Just Love the Man," "Dance Turner Romance," and we really thought that it would take us away from what we were as far as becoming R&B, hardcore R&B. And Valerie is the one that insisted on, she said, we need to do this. This song is just so beautiful. We could do it and make it, because it's like she kept saying it's a universal song. We really need to do it. We need, to show people that we can do stuff besides R&B. And so we sat down with Dexter and Cynthia and discussed how we were going to do it because the music was just so beautiful. And that's when we came up with the idea of no leads, no lead voice, because I was the lead singer. I wasn't going to do any leads. There was not going to be any step outs. We were just going to let the harmonies and the unison be the main voice. And it worked beautifully. I mean, that song to this day, like I said, it's in the new movie the Book of Clarence, and it has been so many people have sampled it and covered it, but there's no. I have people call me where they said we just heard your song on the elevator at some big big building somewhere around the world, and that song has enabled us to travel around the world because it's just a song that it's a universal song, and it's just so ethereal and it's spiritual, and it's just a beautiful song.
It's jazzy. It's got storytelling quality.
Yes,
It just kind of transcends in a lot of different
it,
ways.
exactly, it does.
Yeah. Um, and then you had I found that man of mine on there was another hit, which was
Hmm.
more fun, danceable kind of track.
Right.
Um, Track that was not a single that I liked on there was ASAP.
ASAP, we wrote that. Yes, we wrote that one, and a lot of people thought that should have been the first single off of that album. But back then, most of the time, the first record had to be a Gamble and Huff song.
Well, it should have been a single at some point. I don't think it was.
Yeah, it wasn't. No, it
Yeah.
should, but it should have been. It got a lot of play though, off the album.
Did you guys do that one in your live set at all?
Did we do? No, we didn't do ASAP. We did Show Love Today, which was on the first album. We wrote that also. Myself and Valerie and McKinley.
What was your touring like at that point?
Oh my goodness. By this time we were touring everywhere with Teddy Pendergrass, with Maze. We were on all the Budweiser fests that they had. Um, with the Gap Band. We were just touring with
And we
Luther Vandross, Peebo. Yeah.
and a lot of TV also.
Yes, back in the day, excuse me, Dinah Shore, Merv Griffin. Uh, they were the popular ones back then that we did. Soul Train.
And were you doing music videos too, or?
We didn't do our first music video. Videos for us became popular when we left and went to RCA. We did one. And then when in 1986, for my solo project, we did one for Do You Get Enough Love?
I got you.
Yeah.
Is there one or two memories from the road touring that you could share with us that were particularly memorable for whatever reason?
With the Jacksons, when we met them, because we did their West Coast tour with them their father wanted us on that show. And when we first met them, because at that time, we had only had one crowd where it was so many people. They were working like those 20,000 seat arenas, and that was the biggest crowd. So when we worked with the Jacksons, that was something I'll always remember.
Wow. Do you remember what tour that was?
It was the tour right before Michael left. He left right after that. So it was
Yeah.
the last tour of them together. And we did the West Coast, Oakland, San Francisco, LA, and Seattle, Washington.
Wow. I'm sure those crowds were electric.
Oh, my goodness, yes. My goodness, yes. That was some fun times.
So with the Jacksons, and was there anything else you remember? Maybe a mishap happened or something unexpected or out there on the road?
No, I mean, we had fun out there. I think Teddy Pendergrass, uh, when we were out there with him, and we had a couple of interesting things happen, because he and I were dating at one point, and we were kind of going at it, and he had said he wasn't going to send our limo, and just little silly stuff, and I said, well, if you don't send the limo, we're not going to perform, and he like that. So yeah, I mean, it was always something, but we always tried to prepare and rehearse. And so we never really had, except towards the end when we weren't as united as a group and we were having issues with alcoholism. There were a couple of times, one, if not both of the girls got on stage and was a little bit inebriated, I should say, and forgot their steps. And that was quite embarrassing.
Sometimes, often you think it's worse than the crowd notices.
Yeah. But this time it was a New Year's Eve. I never will forget. We were out with Luther and Peebo, and I could see the audience laughing. So I was not happy at all. And I think right after that is when I left the group.
Okay. Well, before that, you guys switched, as you had mentioned, to RCA. Why the change there?
Because we really weren't. We had changed management again, and they were trying to tell us that maybe we should try something different. And we weren't really sure if Gamble and Huff were going to pick us up again, which lack of communication. So RCA made us an offer, and instead of going to Gamble and them, we just said okay, and we just went on and went with that situation. Which sometimes now, what they did was they released the fourth album, Keep It Coming, at the same time or a few months later, and it actually did better than that RCA album, because the RC album, which was a good album, which was a different direction for us, Fonzie Thornton, who's Luther's partner, and Robert Wright, who's no longer here, they wrote and produced that album, and it was a good album, had some good songs, but it just was not what people were used to from the Jones Girls. And then when Gamble released Keep It Coming, the Kenny Burke album that he did most of it on, people were like, now that's the Jones Girls. But we were no longer with Gamble and them when they released that album.
Okay. Yeah, because that one didn't chart and only had one single.
You're right.
Yeah. Who are some of the musicians that played on that Keep It Coming?
Oh my goodness, Kenny Burke. I think McKinley's on there. Oh my goodness, I don't know the rest of them, but I know Kenny Burke on the ones he produced.
From Stair Steps, yeah. Because it's not credited on the list I saw the way all of your other albums are, so I was curious. But On Target still had two singles, To Win You Back.
To Win You Back, that's the one we shot a video for. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, another catchy, danceable track, and the title track. Yeah, which was kind of a little funky for you guys.
On Target?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Kind of in a whisper, kind of what was going on at that time with the sound, with like the whispers and like Star and that kind of.
Right. At that time. And that's what we were going for, but it just didn't happen, like the other albums that we had done with Gamble and Huff.
So what transpired that, you ended up going out on your own, and, what was happening internally at that point?
It was a lot of infighting, and we were not as solid as to the direction that we should go in. And then there was quite a bit of alcoholism going on. And to the point where that night in Chicago, when that situation happened where they were losing steps and people were laughing, right, I decided then that it was time for me to leave. And plus, Valorie had been wanting to go experience college because she was the only one that didn't have a chance to go to college because she was so young. And we hit the road with Diana right after she graduated. So, and then Brenda was dating Peebo's manager, so she wanted to get married. And so that, just things that happened with female women, we just started not being on the same page
Yeah.
as to the direction. And I just said it's time for us to just take a break from each other. And that's what I was doing. We were everybody was kind of doing their own thing. And I got a phone call from Kenny Gamble one night and asked me what I was doing and would I be interested in doing a solo project. And I told him absolutely. Yeah, because I had gone back into corporate America. I was working in corporate America, just longing for an opportunity to sing again. So
Wow.
I went to Philadelphia and right out the gate, Do You Get Enough Love became a number one record.
Did you have any inkling that was going to get over like it did?
Yeah, I was the only one because the song was actually written for the OJs. Bunny Siegler. I just happened to be passing by his room at Philly International, and I heard the song, and I'm like, "Oh, I like this song." I said, "Oh, Bunny, I really like this song." And he says, "Well, I'm glad you do because the OJs just turned it down. I wrote it for them, and I forgot who was singing the demo." He said, "I wrote it for them, and they don't want to do it for their album." And I said, "Oh no." And I said, "Well, I want to do it." And he said, "Well, I mean, if Gamble say you can do it." And so I went to Kenny and I said, "I really like the song I heard passing by Bunny's office." And Kenny said, "What song is that?" And I said, "Do You Get Enough Love?" And he said, He said, "You want to try it?" I said, "Yeah." And we tried it. And hey, right out the box, it was number one.
Man, did you ever get any feedback from the OJ guys after that?
I worked with them after that. One time I became a soloist, I worked with them, and I would always tell them jokingly, because they're like brothers to me. I would tell them, I said, "Thank you so much for turning that song down." And they like, "Forget you."
uh, how different was it for you going in the studio by yourself though?
uh, It was quite different because I was used to harmonies, but what we did was purposely used other singers, background singers. Now, for this tribute album, I did all the voices because I wanted it to sound like Jones Girls. But for that album, we purposely used some singers out of New York. Al McKay from Earth, Wind, and Fire produced the slow side. We had a concept that we had all up-tempo songs on one side and then slow songs on the B side of the album. Just a different way of separating me from the Jones Girls.
Yeah, that was not uncommon. I mean, the Isley Brothers would do things like that, and
Right. Yeah.
like the party side and the get down side, and
Right.
yeah.
Yes.
Um, but interesting though to me, all the three single releases were all the slow material.
The slow songs. Yes.
Yeah. Um, so ironically, I mean, that's the only number one. I mean, the Jones Girls never got to number one. So, but
Exactly.
you did.
I did. Yeah. So, that was something in it. But see, back in the day though, I think You're Gonna Make Me Love Somebody Else was close. I Just Love the Man was close. But see, back in the day, Michael Jackson or Nita Baker or somebody would hold that number one spot forever. So it just so happens that during in '86 with Do You Get Enough Love, Sweet Love, I was going up against Anita. I think Melba Moore had something, Jean Carn. And when mine went to number one, I'm like, and then stayed there for a week or two. I'm like, well, wonderful, people love it.
Wow, that must have been so gratifying for you.
It was, absolutely.
Yeah. And then Surrender, though, was a nice funky dance track on that record.
Yes, I love that song. I think Bunny wrote that too, Surrender, I believe.
And the album went to number 8 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then, did you tour on your own at all?
Oh yeah, I did. I was out with Maze um, for about 8 months. I did some stuff with uh, the OJs, the Stylistics, the Intruders. I toured, and I think that's why I'm still working now. You know, as Shirley Jones of the Jones Girls, or the Jones Girls featuring Shirley Jones. So I've built up a nice, good show, and people call me that all the time. You know, that want to hear Jones Girl stuff and my stuff.
I had a record collector, a friend of mine who's also a big fan. He had a question because we're right around that time frame, 1985, on Teddy Pendergrass's LP. I think you did background on
On
that.
Can We Try? Yeah, one of the singles on there.
Yeah, he said one of us fell in love. For that, do you recall that track?
One of Us Fell in Love. I think we did do that one too. Yeah, I think we did do that one.
Yeah, according to him, he said that he thinks very few people realize that track was actually a cover version of a UK record from an artist called Liquid Gold from 1981.
Hmm.
And he wanted to know if you had even heard that before you were
Never.
part.
Never. That's my first time hearing that.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to check that out and make sure.
Yeah, well, you might want to go back and check it out. So there's some
Yes,
trivia for you.
for sure.
So Shirley, it was a ways after that though, for your next record. So what sort of transpired,
I
in
got
that?
married. I got married to one of the Harlem Globetrotters, and then I had my son in 1988, and he's now 35. And I took a break for several years to raise him because with his dad being a Globetrotter and me, as everybody couldn't be trotting around the world, so I opted to stay home and raise him, and only really got back out there again uh, when my mom passed in 2006. Um, she passed, and I realized after, what she would want me to keep doing, and that was, uh, keep performing. And then the girls and I got back together briefly to do an album over for a record label over in the UK called Coming Back. And we did that in 1992.
Okay, 92, because your
Mhm.
next record, from what I see, was 94 with you.
With me, with you, that I did. We did, the Jones Girls did Coming Back, and I did With You. Yes, and that was 94.
And you had a remake of the Egypt track on there, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Everybody else was remaking it, and I said for that album, I'm like, I need to remake it myself. Yeah.
So then after that, did you can start, more regularly performing, or you kind of were still laying back?
I was still laying back quite a bit, and then laid back until my mom passed in
Mm.
2006. And then 2006, I said, I need to get back into doing this because I know that, even though Brenda and Valorie passed away in 2001. So, and Brenda and I tried to do some things together, but it didn't work. So I said, I'm just going to, continue on as a soloist.
Yeah. So, and you had, from what I could find, albums in 2010 and 2015. Was
Hmm.
there anything else that we're missing
No,
before? Okay.
right.
So,
20,
Feels Like
2010.
Heaven
Feels like heaven. Yep.
and My Time to Shine.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and those are great, I mean, I don't know if they got much attention, but to me, you kept the level, at where it needed to be.
I I tried, and the only reason why because all of those were self-funded, as an independent. Even this new tribute album only, but Sony is getting ready to do some stuff with it. This tribute album that was just released on the February 16th. So because the single, there's an unreleased record called Baby Don't Go Yet on this new tribute album that typical classic Gamble Huff Jones girls. So that's the next single. And so they're going to get behind that because Gamble and Huff are celebrating 60 years in the business, and we're celebrating 45 years since the release of the first album.
So where had that track been?
In the can, along with several other really good tracks that we have. And hopefully one day I can sit with Gamble, and we've talked about it, and go through that and try to, maybe release a whole album of unreleased, because we have at least 10 or 12 that are in there.
Did you always know that, or was it kind of like a surprise? You didn't know?
No, we knew. Oh, yeah, we knew. Because for every album, we always cut more, and then we would select the best 8. Because I think back in the day, you only would have like 8, four, I think 4 or 5 on each side.
Yeah, the vinyl days. Yeah.
Right. Then good old vinyl days.
So tell us a little bit more about this new release, Shirley. How long in the making was it? And, I know that there's some familiar tracks on there. And so how did you decide what would go on there?
It is, it's been in the making since Brenda passed. She was tragically killed in 2017. And it's my way of giving flowers to my sisters, because I've been getting so many flowers. Just the fact that I'm still able to work and perform and, on these different shows and sell out, clubs. And so it's my way of giving them their flowers. And each song has something to do with the Jones girls. Even like, for example, This I Know, the fifth, I think it's the 5th song on there. The duet that I'm doing with Everest. Everest is a popular UK singer that actually opened for the Jones Girls in 1992 when we sold out a couple of shows at the Dominion. And then the cover of At Your Mercy, which is always one of my first songs off that very first album, At Your Mercy. So every song has something to do with the Jones girls. And that was my way of giving my flowers to my sisters.
Must have been cathartic in that way.
It was, yes.
And you have other family involved too, right?
Yes, my son. He wrote and he co-wrote that song with myself and Everest, and he's doing a little rap version. And then the title, Reflections, is written by myself and Valerie's son and produced by he and I.
For the covers of some of the Jones Girls songs, did you choose those because you kind of felt like they were maybe overlooked, originally?
Yes. At Your Mercy was one of my favorites. And then, of course, Who Can I Run To? I Won't Tell. That's a cover I decided to do because Who Can I Run To is my favorite Jones Girls song. Absolute favorite.
Yeah. So you didn't pick like maybe obvious ones that were hits. You picked ones that have a special meaning.
Oh, yeah. It had a special meaning to the Jones Girls. Yes.
So how's, you had a single out, I think, back in August, right? How's the reception been? How was it to the single, and how are things looking?
Everywhere. It was released in the UK first, a few days before here. And When You Love Somebody, the reception, that was the first kickoff single. And it did well, considering, it's self-funded by myself. And the album, everyone is talking about this album, how it's a beautiful piece of work, like they're used to from the Jones Girls, except this one here is from Shirley Jones to the Jones Girls, to Brenda and Valorie Jones.
Yeah, Baby Don't Go Yet is just so really heartfelt.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Soul stepping, super catchy and fun.
Oh, yeah. That's I wrote that. I didn't gamble with her for Baby Don't Go Yet. I wrote I Won't Tell. I wrote My Time to Shine. And I wrote 5 of the and then Reflections. 5 of the 10 songs that are on there.
Yeah, My Time to Shine, great funky. I mentioned Staple Singers earlier. That one has a little bit of that flavor, I think.
Yes. And that's why I put that on this album, because it was the title track of an album in 2016. And I got so much airplay off of that, and people love that song. But there again, it was self-funded and never. So this time now, hopefully with the promotion team of Sony behind it, people can they'll be able to experience several of those songs that I had on other albums that I did independently.
Yeah, I sure hope so. And I hope this can contribute to that.
Yes.
So what should people expect if they come to see Shirley Jones today?
Hey, if you come see us, it's going to be a lively, fun show that hopefully people tell me all the time that they feel inspired, they feel uplifted, and they feel happy. And that's what I want. And that's what I want. They tell me that my show just makes them feel good, makes them want to smile.
That's fantastic. So how can they keep track of, where you're going to be and what you're up to?
My website, shirleyjonesgirl.com. And the Facebook and Instagram, I am Shirley Jones of the Jones Girls. So just hit me up. My schedule is always on there. My website, they're getting ready to post the schedule, because I just did the first of the kickoff 45-year anniversary shows here in Atlanta last Sunday, and it was sold out. And Karen White, Superwoman, came through, and In Vogue sent me congratulations. And so we're taking this same 40, because I'm celebrating all year. I think 45 years, you should celebrate the entire year. So we're taking this show to Detroit. Mike Epps just opened up a new club there, and then several of the city wineries around the country. And
Wow.
then I'm off to the UK and Portugal this year. So yeah, that will be around, and my schedule will be posted.
Oh, fantastic. You got your ducks in a row for this one.
Oh yes, I do.
Man, Shirley, any other message you'd like to get out there to your fans?
Just tell people, it's all about love. And I'd say in my show, there's so much going on in this world right now that we really have to take out more time to learn about each other and learn to love strangers, people that we don't know, people that are not necessarily like us. And I think if we did more of that, I say now, I used to say, do you get enough love? Now I ask you, do you give enough love? Give love, share a smile with somebody, because this is a strange time that we're going through, and we've been going through for several years now. But I believe that if we all just think about love and not hating someone, or not wanting to be around someone because they're different, religious wise, well, culture wise, we can turn this negative that the entire world has been experiencing for several years now. We could turn it around. And that's what I'm hoping to continue to be a vessel through my shows of doing that, for those times, for the minutes that you're sitting there watching me. My show is all about love and unity.
Well, bless you, Shirley, and thank you so much. And thank you for all the great music through the years, beautiful music.
Thank you. And you have an absolutely wonderful day.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Truth in Rhythm. A big thank you goes out to our guest, as well as to you, the viewer and listener. Also, much gratitude to Pleasure for supplying the show's funky opening and closing music. As a reminder, you can always access the complete list of linked shows by episode at funkinstuff.net. I urge you to support this program and receive the extra benefits along with that by subscribing to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube and sharing it with funk, R&B, and jazz lovers, joining Truth and Rhythm's membership program at Patreon, submitting a donation at funkandstuff.net, buying Everything is on the One, the First Guide to Funk book at Amazon, shopping at the Funky Things store for cool merchandise at funkandstuff.net, and linking through funkandstuff.net for all of your Amazon purchases. In addition, if you're an artist or anyone seeking proven, results-oriented professional marketing, PR, writing, or editing consultation or production, check out the media services section at funkandstuff.net. Also, I encourage you to drop me a line at scottg@funkandstuff.net. I love the feedback, suggestions, guest requests, appearance and sponsorship inquiries, and just talking about my favorite subject, groove-based music. For now, and as always, this is Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibing to the rhythm of the